Well, about 5, 6 years ago, my mom passed away, and I started dating this guy, and it became an abusive, obsessive relationship. And it took a lot for me to get out of that. And even when I did, because it was really difficult, when I did pull away from the relationship, I was stammering. I was very afraid. I had no confidence. And a friend of mine asked me to come through for a TV interview, which then became my first TV job as a TV host. And I'm not even sure why I was selected for it, but I wanted it so badly that I had to work towards keeping it. My work helped me come out of it and become a normal person again. I'm Diane Opoti, African fashion PR consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I share hope.
Welcome to I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, you look great. Fantastic. In Kenya, so how often do you lose power in Kenya?
Well, it's not that often, to be honest. It's just been really horrible weather.
Yeah.
The rain's just been pouring. So there's been a lot of flooding. It's been really bad. So I think it messed up a couple of telephone lines. But typically when the lights go off, when the power goes off, the generators kick in. But I think there's a problem generally. There's a lot more water than people are expecting or something like that. And I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've lived in Kenya your whole life?
Yes, I have. I grew up in a small town called Kisumu, and then came through to, I came to Nairobi for university, and then decided to continue working here. So I full Kenyan. I was brought up in Kenya.
So in Nairobi now, and tell me the name of the town you grew up in again, the small town.
Kisumu, a
Kisumu.
small town called, yeah.
How small is small? How many people, or how big is the town? How do
Well,
you?
it's a city. I didn't know statistics, but it's a city now, so it's not that small.
Great.
It's
Good.
just compared to Nairobi in terms of development, we call it a small town.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. Is your family still there?
Well, my mom passed away. She raised us, and all my siblings live in different parts of the world. I have a brother and a sister in the United States, in Minnesota, and I have a small brother in Finland, and my big brother is back and forth, London and here.
Wow. Y'all really all over the place. That's
Yes,
great.
yes, you can see that. Yeah.
And you stayed home. Look at that. So you've
Yeah.
stayed home and you've made an enormous impact. So Diana, let me make sure before we jump in here, because I want to make sure everybody else gets to hear this once we really get into the interview. And I don't want to get your name wrong. So tell me exactly how to pronounce your last name.
Opoti. Opoti.
Opoti.
Yeah, Opoti. Exactly how it sounds phonetically. Yeah, it's just
Perfect.
Opoti.
Opoti. Diana Opoti. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Diana Opoti, so thrilled that you're here sharing hope with me and so many others listening with me today. Now, if I get this right, you're way into the fashion profession. So you've really promoted African fashion, and in fact, you've been named one of the most outstanding, I think actually the outstanding trend communicator of the year by the continent's most prestigious award in South Africa, the African Fashion Award. So you've also done this thing called 100 Days of African Fashion. I want to hear more about that in a few minutes as well. And you're promoting African fashion, not just because you're a wonderful designer and promoter, but because you actually have a passion for what's going on in your continent and your country of Kenya and so many others around you. So in Nairobi now, tell me what you're doing today, and then a little more about you, and I'll jump into these 5 questions about hope, and I'd love to hear your answers.
Great. So I'll just quickly start with the background of why we did 100 Days of African Fashion. There's just such a demand. There were just so many designers coming up, and I realized that if you were not in the fashion industry, not only did you not know of these designs, but the outlets are really few and far apart. So to access Nigerian fashion, for example, you would basically have to be in Nigeria, or a contact of the designer in your city, if you were lucky, would have some of those pieces. So I wanted to just create an awareness of African fashion, and this followed a TV show that I'd created called Designing Africa. So I traveled across the continent to interview with young designers just to understand what African fashion was. A lot of the times, 3 or 4 years ago, a lot of the times we heard about African fashion, it was about cultural references. So I wanted to discover who the young designers were, what their aesthetics were, and to show people that just like global fashion, African fashion really varies in its aesthetics. So really, that is the background of 100 Days and why we started. My battery is really low and there's no power. Let me just walk with you as I speak. Now, the other thing as well is 100 Days for me was just for me a bit of a protest in terms of I wanted people to understand that these clothes were accessible. I wanted them to see how they could apply them on a day to day. So 100 Days was not about red carpet outfits. 100 Days was about luxurious, was about good quality African outfits. And so that's why I did the 100 Days campaign. Now, just a clarification, I didn't win at the award, but I was a shortlist nominee. So I was one of the top three. And then somebody else won at the Mercedes-Benz Africa Fashion Awards. So, yeah.
Well, you should have won. So
Thank you.
everybody
Yeah.
that's listening with me, I wish you could see what I'm seeing right now. So we're on Skype video chatting, and Diana's beautiful. You'll see pictures of her online. She's just fantastic, and the power is out at her house right now, and she's still beautiful, and she's walking around with her cell phone to make sure we get to do this conversation. And she's all dressed up. I mean, she looks fantastic. And I tell you what, if the power was out near my town, everybody around here would be like, I couldn't wash my hair. I couldn't get the blow dryer to work. I couldn't get anything done. And so
We did
Diana,
have power just a couple of hours ago, so it's not that bad. Yeah.
well, thank you for all the extra effort you're having to go through today to make this work. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
All right,
Thank you.
Diana, here's how we do this. We ask 5 questions for every person we talk to. So we're interviewing 1,000 people around the world to get as much of a true connection to hope globally that we can. So asking people in every genre of life. So every 8 million people represented in a people group around the world, no matter what people group that could be, gets one representative on the survey. So
Okay.
obviously you're in a unique location in the world. Being in Kenya, you're a fashion designer and consultant. You're a woman. You have a story that's really compelling, and you're doing a lot to engage the community in hope. And I can't think of a better person to talk to and ask these questions. So again, let me jump in, and I just can't wait to hear what you have to say. Question 1, what's your favorite quote about hope, or your definition of hope?
Well, for me, hope reflects, hope for me is looking forward to what we don't know, but we want to believe in. That's what I see hope as. When I started, for example, the campaign, I had no idea where it would take my personal brand. So hope is the belief that things could be what you want them to be if you dream and work towards it.
Oh, that's powerful. That really is. So with that definition in mind, question 2, who's shared the most of that kind of hope with you? Who's given you a lot of that hope?
Well, I must say that, especially in respect and in regard to the campaign that I'm running, 100 Days of African Fashion, and how it's evolved to then see me start up a fashion consultancy for African fashion brands looking to enter Nairobi or Kenya. I'd say it was the immense support from all the designers. I had no background. I wasn't being supported by a big company. There was no promise for visibility beyond my own personal network. Yet designers from across the world of African heritage and across the continent sent me outfits. And so I did fulfill 100 days, and I even have much more. So just the support for people to see this happen, for me, is part of that hope of what Africa could be, and that unification and the spirit of oneness. Yeah.
So these were people from all over Africa, not just your country, right?
Yes. So I profiled maybe one plus 100 unique brands across the 100 days. So I got designers from South Africa, Nigeria, Lagos, even Sierra Leone at the time. I've got a couple of designers from Congo, from Cameroon. And the second edition of the season is coming up, and people are already writing asking to be profiled. So it's Kenya, it's East Africa, and then also designers in the diaspora, African designers who are living in the United States, in the United Kingdom, even Australia. So just that hope that, yes, the African consumer can sustain African fashion businesses, that African fashion brands are viable, and that we can change the attitude about local manufacturing or support local brands.
Wonderful, wonderful idea, and I know that can go even farther than your shores in Africa, because I see African brands and African trends springing up more and more here in the U.S., and I think it's great. I love the global feel of that, and I love that somebody like you is taking those groups and those people that may not have talked otherwise politically or religiously or for their place in society, and you're actually just using fashion, the stuff that we all think about, to make that connection. Not only in your own country, but you're getting it outside of even African borders. It's really cool.
Yes, and thank God for the internet, right?
So, Diana, question 3 is take us back to a time in your life and kind of a place. Paint that picture for us. Set the scene of when you needed hope and when you had to really work through something difficult, and it took hope to really get you through that.
Um, wow. Well, something many people don't know about me was I was in an abusive relationship.
Diana, I'm sorry. You're muffled again. It's like it's being covered by your hand,
Really?
maybe.
Oh, I
Oh,
see.
there you go. Now you're loud and clear.
Oh my God, we don't even know how to use our phones.
No, whatever. I do the same
That's
thing.
actually it.
I do the same thing.
Sorry.
Now, let me ask the
Yeah.
question again, because I want to. You were starting into something good there, and so Jeff, cut to right here, because I want to make sure this comes through good and clear. Because Diana's story, I know she'll just nail this, and I want to make sure we get it right. So Diana, tell me a time for question number 3 when hope was something you really had to fall back on. Kind of paint the picture. What was going on in your life when it was just really hard, and you had to make some tough choices and had to pursue the hope that you knew you had and it was right. So take us there.
Well, about 5, 6 years ago, my mom passed away, and I had to. I was in my second, third year of university. I was just going into my third year of university, and I then I was all on my own. All my siblings were out of the country, and I started dating this guy, and it became an abusive, obsessive relationship, and it took a lot for me to get out of that. And even when I did, because it was really difficult, when I did pull away from the relationship, I was stammering. I was very afraid. I had no confidence. And a friend of mine asked me to come through for a TV interview, which then became my first TV job as a TV host. And I'm not even sure why I was selected for it, but I wanted it so badly that I had to work towards keeping it. So I remember that the transition between picking myself up, I mean, leaving that relationship and picking myself up and having to interact with people, share things with friends, was a really difficult period for me. And so coming out of it, my work helped me come out of it and become a normal person again.
That's a great example of something that can really drain the life out of you with the wrong kind of relationship, and many of us get in that spot. How did you, just practically speaking, for people listening, how did you get yourself out of that relationship in a healthy way?
Well, I wouldn't really say it was a healthy way. I tried to maybe 5, 6 times, and I kept going back because most abusers will pretend that, um, or they'll hide behind alcohol or anger, and so he always wooed me back. He always managed to get me back into the relationship. And then one day we'd gone out clubbing, and when I came back home, he was really violent. And the next morning, I just woke up and decided I'm going to walk away from this house. I didn't take any of my clothes. I didn't take any of my jewelry or anything that I'd invested in the house. I just walked to the office with my handbag and the clothes on me. And then that evening, I went to an uncle's house and I never looked back again. And I'm not sure what gave me that strength that day. Perhaps it was the fear of what could have happened if I'd really been hurt, because he really hit my head against the wall and he stripped me in front of the guards. So I felt that it was just that turning point. I guess I just snapped. I'd taken in so much, and I just snapped and decided I wasn't going to go back. I changed my phone number. I stopped going out. So I changed a lot about my social life, which was not healthy for me, but it was the only thing that helped me get out of the relationship and not go back. But prior to that, I'd been out of the house. I'd been back and forth in that relationship maybe 6 times, and I'd never had the strength to move on. Not when he was abusive, not when he second guessed everything I said, not when he was mean and offensive. But that one time when I was hit really hard, I woke up the next morning and decided I'm not going to stay here, and I didn't. So for me, that was my turning point.
Great story and a lot of courage. And congratulations on your bravery there. That's a big deal. That's really hard to walk away from an abusive relationship. I know that. I know that personally, and I know it. I know it for other stories as well. And your bravery impresses me. Thank you. Good example
Thank
there
you.
too for myself and all of the people like me listening to you right now. Just that important process of finding where you need to take action and taking the brave step of doing something that you think, well, I'm gonna lose other relationships. It's not just the one relationship with an abuser. It's all the other relationships you're, I'm sure, thinking about. What about their friends and the people that might take his side versus my side, and all the places that he goes that I still want to go maybe and can't go now. And there's all those things,
Exactly.
but it's the clean break that really you changed a lifestyle, not just a person, you know?
Yeah.
Hmm.
Um, you change a lot about yourself, but you also second guess a lot about your decisions. I wasn't with him for his money. I had a stable job, a well-paying job. I had to have a very different. I lived a life for a long time because I was in that relationship for 1.5 years, and maybe for about 6 months, um, it wasn't in the list. There was nothing about the first 6 months of that friendship that was violent. However, there were small signs that people say we should always watch out for in terms of that obsessive personality type. Um, but the thing about living in an abusive relationship in a middle class setting is it's not perceived normal. So many women don't talk about it. So your whole life is a lie. And a lot of your friends, you don't want to tell them because you know that they'll ask you not to stay in that relationship, but you feel that something is still holding you back. That's why you're not able to move forward. So for a long time, I didn't tell anybody. And when I did talk about it, it wasn't as if they could save me, you know? So it became critical. And most times, like in my case especially, he found a way to cut me off my friends and make me dependent on him emotionally. And I guess that's what he was looking for in me. And a very important thing that I learned later was I knew 2 other women who had dated him and had gone through the same thing, and none of us ever spoke about it. So just stumbling on that information made me so aware that the things that we hold back could actually impact somebody else's life, because we're lucky that none of us died or were badly injured or scarred. But if we spoke about it and people knew that he was that way, maybe the second or the third person would not have gone through the same thing.
You're right. You're right. And you're encouraging me to do the same and not hide what goes on in our past that we may feel shame or embarrassment about. But if it comes out and it's the truth, and you can help somebody else see a better way to do things or a danger to stay away from, what a great opportunity. And
Yeah.
and you never know, the person who is struggling with the bad habit, the anger, the abusive tendency, sometimes they can actually get help and find a way out of that pattern, and that's a great thing too, that may come from to honesty. You can't be the one to walk through that with them. You need to get away yourself, but you can actually, maybe in the process, maybe they'll find a way to work on their own stuff. So nice.
Yeah.
Thank you. That's hard to share, but it's really good. There's a lot of hope in that, and there's a lot of good pathway to follow there. Question number 4, Diana, how are you sharing hope today? So I know we have the 100 project that's going on, where you're collecting so many things from the continent that deal with fashion and sharing those brands and those ideas. But in a daily way, as a quote unquote regular person like me and the rest of our listeners, how are you just going around in your community and your family, your friends? How do you share hope with people?
Well, to be honest, at the minute, I'm doing it very simply. I'm starting off with just one second. Yeah. Sorry about that, Chris.
Oh, take your time. Say hi to everybody.
Nice one. Yeah, because they'd agreed to go for a meeting.
So did you have to give the car up, or do you still get to keep the charger?
It's my car. So I'll just follow them.
Okay,
It's my
great.
car. Yeah. So what I was saying just now is I'm trying. I know a lot of people do a lot of mentorship talks and various things, but you'll be surprised how involving and overwhelming it is running this project. So I've tried to create a balance between introducing new brands and exposing them. I don't judge designers to profile their clothes, because I run a fashion PR consultancy that is independent of this work. So it's a balance between understanding the power of my voice in terms of introducing new brands, and I'm using the different. I'm trying to explore the very
Diana, I lost you a little bit.
opportunities in terms of the various opportunities to create visibility for other people. So whether it's highlighting other people in other countries, whether it is introducing new bloggers and directing people to work with them. So it's all the small aspects that I've tried to combine with my work. So that's really how right now I'm trying to share this space with people. So that's where I'm at the minute.
Okay, that's great. That makes sense. So you're really in your own job, in your process. It's not just about the 100 days, but there's so many other things. You have another business that actually helps with what you're doing, and it's the way you make a living. And that's there's a lot of projects and a lot of people there you're able to share hope with just in your regular daily work. If I'm hearing you right, you cut out just a little bit there, so I'm just making sure we're talking the same thing. Is that right?
Yes, absolutely. So I professionally run a fashion PR consultancy, which has a mix of services, including market research, fashion recruitment for personnel, and that kind of thing. So that in itself creates the real link between for business from a business perspective. So 100 days for me is really my biggest tool for hope, to show people that if with the right type of exposure, your brand can grow, or you can connect with traders, because that really is what happens with 100 days. So if you see my followers across the social media platforms, or the people who connect with me, or even on LinkedIn, it's a mixture of stylists, retailers, and business owners. So it's not just fun because Dan is popular. It's really, I want to have access to get to know one or two of the designers that you're profiling portrayed. So it is, I feel, a strong way that I'm sharing hope with people in my industry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's right. That makes sense. Great. Okay, Diana, question number 5. Tell me some simple steps of hope. How are you, or how can we just learn and take some simple steps, the one, two, threes, to move forward in becoming people of hope, or sharing hope with somebody else? What's the first thing we should do? If right now, if I'm going to hang up this phone call and get to it, what do I need to do first to start sharing hope?
Well, I always say that even for what I do, which sounds very vague, right? Sometimes, the first and most important thing is for people to just genuinely believe in something. Lock down one thing and believe in it. So that's for me what's important. That we find something that we believe in, because that becomes the easiest thing for you to market, right? The easiest thing for you to live a life out of. So just let me do that again. I'd say that the most important thing, or the first steps towards achieving our dreams or fulfilling hope, would be to look for that thing, discover that thing that makes you complete, that makes you happy, and then find ways for that thing, find ways to fulfill um, what it is that you want to do. So for me, I loved fashion, and then I found a purpose in fashion. So all the skills that I'd learned from TV production to public relations, and I combined them with my natural skills and then this is what came out of it. So I think the first step would be to discover this one thing that you're interested in, and then to study and learn it and see how it can impact other people. Because the most important thing for me has been the happiness of other people. My campaign is driven by that, it's driven by sharing. So I will wear a beautiful item, but whatever I'm wearing gives visibility to the designer who made it. So for me, that's my direct way of interpreting what it is in terms of how I found hope. For me, it's sharing that hope with people and seeing how to transfer my happiness to people with everything that I'm doing for the campaign.
Great. Really good. Really, really good. So you've given us so many things to think through, so many things from your own story, and then also just steps of hope moving forward. And you're accomplishing a lot in your area of not just industry, but your area of the world. I'm really impressed, Diana. I really am. I don't know how you have enough energy to get all this done.
Thank you, Chris. Sometimes you don't even realize it, because it also comes with a lot of challenges. Monetizing this campaign is not easy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it genuinely will benefit from the goodwill of designers without it being a pity project or a charitable project, right? It's not a charity project. So I'm very fortunate or blessed that I was able to even see very clearly the areas that you could commercialize, which is the separate entity, which is the fashion PR business. Yeah, so it's that's just what I wanted to say, that it's not easy. A lot of people look at me and say, "Oh, you must have an impressive wardrobe, right?" Um, I'm 31. I think it's not traditional. Most bloggers are under 30, and they're getting even younger. So it's not easy having such a public life, if you can say that, especially because there's always that confusion that a lot of people professionally might not fully understand what I do, because they only see you when they only see the clothes that you wear, if you know what I mean, right?
Right.
So yeah, so I got misinterpreted a lot of the time. Sometimes I'm introduced as a stylist, which I'm absolutely not, or that girl who likes clothes. So it also comes at a sacrifice, and it's just being very clear about what you want to do and going for it without letting all the noise deter you. So it's not been easy, but if it's something you love to do, it's quite simple.
I've heard that many times before. It's the passion that you have and what you love to do becomes the, if you can figure that out and find the way to make that thing become the thing you can do all the time, there's not much that can stop you.
Yeah,
Very true.
absolutely.
Well, let's pause here for a quick second, Diana, and we get a quote about hope from each of our guests, and that helps us introduce the interview from you and the audio version of that. So each of our guests says, like if it was me, if I was the guest, I would say my name. So I'm Chris Williams, what I do for a living. So I'm a CEO consultant or the host of I Share Hope or whatever I want to identify myself as. And I share hope. So your name, what you do, and the phrase, and I share hope. So I'm Chris Williams, the host of I Share Hope, and I share hope. So you can, I'll be quiet, and why don't you say your name, what you do, however you want to describe yourself, and I share hope.
And I share hope.
Give me your name, what you do. So like for example, I would say I'm Chris Williams, and the host of I Share Hope, and I share hope. So give me your name, how you would title yourself, and I share hope.
All right. I'm Diane Opoti, fashion PR consultant, specializing in African fashion, and I share hope.
Awesome. Do that one more time so I can make sure it's perfect.
I'm Diane Opoti, African fashion PR consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I share hope.
I'm going to ask you to do it once more. I'm just getting a little bit of audio cut out. Not your fault. It's just we're getting all the pieces here, and I'll make sure we get everything patched together. So one more time.
I'm Diane Opoti, fashion PR consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I share hope.
Awesome. Well done, Diana. Amazing. So let me ask you a few random questions, not part of the normal interview, but just fun stuff that I like to know. So you said a minute ago, I'm not that girl who likes clothes, or I'm not a, you said one other thing that you think people call you about what you do in your profession. So how would you describe yourself if you had to say, this is what I really do? What is it?
Well, I connect African fashion brands to consumers, and consumers. Okay, sorry, I'll do that again. So I connect African fashion brands to consumers and connect consumers and create visibility. Sorry. I connect African fashion brands to consumers and create visibility of fashion brands. No, sorry. Oh, this is supposed to be so simple. So
I do the same thing when somebody says, what do you really do? I'm
yeah,
like, oh, I don't know what I do. I don't know.
I know after talking for so long. So I connect fashion brands to consumers. I create visibility for African fashion brands.
Great. And so you're traveling around, are you traveling around Africa, or are you staying in Kenya, in the Nairobi area, and bringing these things in? Or do you actually get to go to a lot of these locations and meet the people who are designing these pieces?
Yes. So I have two things. I produce a fashion television series called Designing Africa. So I travel across the continent to different African cities for top fashion events. So I do get to meet these designers. In fact, many of them are personal friends of mine now. So that's one on one hand. The other thing I do is I'm based in Nairobi, so the positioning for my brand really is the fact that I can connect brands to the thing is I can connect brands who want to come into the market with a local clientele. So my positioning is really Nairobi. So same, I have contacts in Lagos, I have contacts in other African cities. So those designers from those countries wanted to come in. I've sort of built what my client knowledge is. So I'm able to guide those brands in my own city. So for 100 days, I'm based in Nairobi, and everything is centralized here. So everything comes back here. And if I do travel for work in that period, then you'll see me either in Zanzibar or wherever it is. But the central point for the campaign is my city.
Awesome. And if you could pick an outfit to wear yourself, if you could wear the ideal thing that was designed by anybody in the world, and you say, boy, I just wish I could have that person design what I want to wear to this special event, who would the designer be?
This is one question, Chris, that I'm too smart to answer.
Oh,
I
really?
have, yeah, I have so many personal friends with very different, as designers, with very different and varied styles.
Sure. Yeah. And you would, I don't
Yeah,
want
so
to
it's
alienate one
one
person.
question that
Yeah. I don't,
always gets me into
no,
trouble.
that's good. And I didn't mean to get you in trouble on that one. So I won't I won't ask the question. I'm taking it back. Let's ask the real question. Here's what I really meant. Because I really don't want to alienate. I understand that as well. I have a lot of friends who do a lot of things and in particularly in fashion, I don't have that many friends in fashion. I have you now, but you really do. I like wearing lots of different things and different styles to different types of events. So there would be a broad range of that. That makes sense. All right. So tell me this then: if you're going to dress up and go out for a big event, what's the favorite? What do you love wearing most? What is that one piece that you say, this just I just love wearing this because it's just fun, makes you feel great, sets off an outfit.
I'm obsessed with dresses,
Hmm.
so I love dresses. Yeah, is that what you mean?
Yeah, obsessed with
Or
dresses. That's exactly what I mean. So it's not
yeah,
the piece of jewelry or the shoes or the hat or the scarf. It's the dress. You love the dress.
but I also love print. So whether it's African inspired print or I love print.
That's great. I love it. You get to have a lot of fun in what you do. That's good.
Yeah, I
All
get
right.
it.
Last question, just for my own curiosity. Your favorite piece of music, favorite song, artist, whatever. When you're gonna pop it in, put your headphones in, you want to feel a little better, get a little more sunshine or hope back in your life. What are you gonna listen to? Anybody?
Anybody. So right now, I'm doing a campaign with this amazing guy called Bala from South Africa, and he and his brothers have such amazing voices. So that's what I'm listening to at the minute.
Ooh, that's great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's a really good one. I'm gonna look them up. There was somebody I heard about in South Africa recently on. It was an interview, I think, on the news, and they were partnering with someone else. They were from South Africa, and they were partnering with someone else. It may have been Kenya, and they sang a
Yeah.
song. Yeah. Do you know?
Oh, okay. So I'm not sure if it's the same thing. So I've just recently partnered with a South African musician
Mm-hmm.
called Bala, and it followed the xenophobia attack in South Africa.
That's what it was.
And so, yes, so we've launched a campaign called Oneness, which I've basically designed, and we're both driving it. So he's going to use his influence in music to compose a song and get different artists from the continent to sing it. He's also currently a music director for a concept called Coke Studios, which basically gets different musicians from African countries of different genres to sing together. So he's doing that, and I will use fashion to connect the continent. So our belief is we can use fashion and music to create a sense of unity on the continent. So among people in the continent. So yes, there is a concept that has been launched. So it's called the Oneness campaign.
Amazing.
So that's
Amazing.
another way of creating hope.
Is there
Yeah.
is there any way that you can connect me to your friend there? And I would love to be part of promoting that and get these interviews out whenever the timing would be right for y'all.
Yes. So his name is Bala. He's currently in the States. I think he and his brothers were doing some visits. He and his brothers are called the Bala brothers. And the South Africans, they've got amazing voices, right? So they're currently in the States on, I think, music promotion or something of that kind. And they'll be back. I think he's coming back to Nairobi in a week or something because they're based in South Africa. So, and he'll be based here for a while. So, on the project I just mentioned, Coke Studios. So, I'm happy to do a formal email introduction.
Yeah, that'd be
Yeah.
perfect. If you just email him and carbon copy me, introduce us that way. If he's in the States now, I don't mind reaching out to him the next few days if he's got time and I can figure out my schedule on that, or if he
You
prefer to
might
wait till
have
he gets
to actually,
back.
you might want to call him on his phone rather than do the proper email thing,
Okay.
because, when people travel, he's not on WhatsApp, or he's not online the way you would be in your own country because of the internet service on phones. So maybe I'll just send you his South African number and you can give him a ring.
Perfect.
But I think it's great because he'll singularly be the one person from South Africa who is doing something outside the country, on the continent, to stop, to create awareness about the anti-xenophobia
That's perfect.
feeling. Because if you think everyone's still doing them back in Africa, but he's not based there for this activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I heard, I got wind of that story earlier this week. I'm remembering back to where it was, and
Really?
yeah, great idea.
Is that incredible? Yeah. So we just came up, it was a conversation. That's the most beautiful thing about it, right? It was a conversation that started because um, we healed in Kenya because of this Coke Studios project I mentioned, and the attacks started, and he was very troubled. He kept saying he wishes he did something, and then this idea just came up, and we sat down, and within 10 days, we structured a proper campaign for the idea. So I think it's, for me. In fact, I didn't. It was such an oversight. I'm sorry, but that is another way that if we can start to respect each other as human beings, um, that for me starts to create a sense of hope for humankind, not just one person, but just, yeah.
Brilliant
Are you
idea.
there?
I am. Brilliant idea. I'm just listening and I'm taking notes as fast as I can. Yeah.
Yeah.
Great.
I meant to put up the website soon, but you can look up. So we've made this little brand asset card that we are asking people to like hold up and make a statement on what they feel about oneness. So if you check out oneness campaign on Twitter, if you send me your Twitter, I'll send you a link.
Okay.
So Twitter and Instagram, and we have a dedicated Facebook page that we're just building. So just check it out and you'll see. So it's pretty legit. And the culmination of it. So once I start 100 days, I'll, in a sense, adopt the oneness campaign. So you can also check the messages I'm asking about what oneness will mean for the African fashion industry. And then he is currently already beginning to write a song for the oneness campaign.
So on Twitter, is this on? Is it Oneness Campaign or is it Oneness?
Yeah. So it's oneness campaign.
Oneness Campaign.
It would be a oneness campaign, and I think I used his face for the headline. Yeah, it might be his face. And then on Instagram, it's oneness campaign as well. And his name is Y Bala, so that's ZWAI.
Okay.
Yeah.
ZWAI.
No, yes, AI, Bala, BALA.
Got it.
Yeah,
Okay.
that campaign. Yeah, so that campaign. Just have a look. Have you seen the campaign?
Yes, I have. I'm looking at it now. Fantastic.
Yeah. So that's us.
Okay.
It's so funny how the world is so small.
Oh, no, you're reaching the world already. You already are. I can see it. I came across that earlier this week, not even knowing you were connected to it. I wasn't prepping for your interview or anything like that. I just was screening through things in world news, trying to get out of my local news area, and came across that. So, yeah, you're doing it. You're doing great at it. So, how can we get in touch with you, Diana? Facebook, Twitter, social media. What's the best way for us to follow you?
Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, so there's that, and then there's 100 days. Look me up on Instagram as well. You'll see some of the work that I'm doing. Yeah.
You know, Diana, your audio is really cutting out now. So I think
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but it's really scratchy, really barely.
Sorry.
That's okay. I've got all your contact info already, and so what I'm going to do is I'm going to put that in the show notes. And let me just do it this way. So, Diana, I'm going to put all of your contact info in the show notes. And anybody who's listening right now, you can go to isharehope.com. It's www.isharehope.com. And you'll find Diana there. And we will have all the contact info for her social media accounts, websites, the Oneness Campaign, the 100 Days of Fashion, all the things she's involved in. If you love fashion, or if you are interested in what's going on the continent of Africa, or if you are interested in growing as a person of hope, I can't encourage you enough to track down the info about Diana and engage there, because she is one of the best at what she does, and that is bringing hope to a lot of people for not just the fashion industry, but it's really more about the heart, and fashion just happens to be the way she gets it done. So, Diane Opoti, wonderful talking to you. Wonderful talking to you.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you for your time, and thanks for the effort you've put in today. I know that the rain has not given you the best chances at getting this done, but your determination in all ways of life obviously is showing through here as well. You're going to get it done. I can tell that.
Thank you so much.
You've just listened to I Share Hope. If you're ready to make a change, head to our website at isharehope.com and claim your free copy of the Top 10 Actions of Hope from World Leaders to use hope in your own life. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk to you next time.
Been named one of the most outstanding, I think actually the outstanding trend communicator of the year by the continent's most prestigious award in South Africa, the African Fashion Award. So you've also done this thing called 100 Days of African Fashion. I want to hear more about that in a few minutes as well. And you're promoting African fashion, not just because you're a wonderful designer and promoter, but because you actually have a passion for what's going on in your continent and your country of Kenya and so many others around you. So in Nairobi now, tell me what you're doing today, and then a little more about you, and I'll jump into these 5 questions about hope, and I'd love to hear your answers.
Great. So I'll just quickly start with the background of why we did 100 Days of African Fashion. There's just such a demand. There were just so many designers coming up, and I realized that if you were not in the fashion industry...
To I Share Hope, the podcast where world leaders share their real stories of hope and how you can use actionable hope to start changing your life today. And now, here's your host, Chris Williams.
That's great.
Okay.
Yeah, you look great. Fantastic. In Kenya, so how often do you lose power in Kenya?
Well, it's not that often, to be honest. It's just been really horrible weather.
Yeah.
The rain's just been pouring. So there's been a lot of flooding. It's been really bad. So I think it messed up a couple of telephone lines. But typically when the lights go off, when the power goes off, the generators kick in. But I think there's a problem generally. There's a lot more water than people are expecting or something like that. And I'm not sure what happened.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you've lived in Kenya your whole life?
Yes, I have. I grew up in a small... Well, about 5-6 years ago, my mom passed away, and I started dating this guy, and it became an abusive, obsessive relationship, and it took a lot for me to get out of that. And even when I did, because it was really difficult, when I did pull away from the relationship, I was stammering, I was very afraid, I had no confidence, and a friend of mine asked me to come through for a TV interview, which then became my first TV job as a TV host. And I'm not even sure why I was selected for it, but I wanted it so badly that I had to work towards keeping it. My work helped me come out of it and become a normal person again. I'm Diane Opoti, African fashion PR consultant based in Nairobi, Kenya, and I share hope.
Welcome
to a town called Kisumu, and then came through to, I came to Nairobi for university, and then decided to continue working here. So I full Kenyan. I was brought up in Kenya.
So in Nairobi now, and tell me the name of the town you grew up in again, the small town.
Kisumu, a small
Kisumu.
town. Yeah.
How small is small? How many people, or how big is the town? How do
Well,
you?
it's a city. I didn't know statistics, but it's a city now, so it's not that small.
Great,
It's
good.
just compared to Nairobi in terms of development, we call it a small town.
I
Yeah.
gotcha. Is your family still there?
Well, my mom passed away. She raised us, and all my siblings live in different parts of the world. I have a brother and a sister in the United States, in Minnesota, and I have a small brother in Finland, and my big brother is back and forth, London and here. Yeah.
Wow, y'all really all over the place. That's great.
Yes. Yes. You can see that. Yeah.
And you stayed home. Look at that. So you've
Yeah.
stayed home and you've made an enormous impact. So Diana, let me make sure before we jump in here, because I want to make sure everybody else gets to hear this once we really get into the interview. And I don't want to get your name wrong. So tell me exactly how to pronounce your last name.
Opoti.
Opo-
Opoti.
Opoti.
Yeah, Opoti. Exactly how it sounds phonetically. Yeah. It's just
Perfect.
Opoti.
Opoti. Diana Opoti. Okay.
Yeah.
Perfect. So Diana Opoti, so thrilled that you're here sharing hope with me and so many others listening with me today. Now, if I get this right, you're way into the fashion profession. So you've really promoted African fashion, and in fact, you've